It was Des back with another video. So yeah, the transfer window's closed. Obviously, what more can we say? We had our number one targets. We had Mudryk and Caicedo. They seem to be the first choice options we had. Obviously, unfortunately, we couldn't get them. Um, it is what it is. You got to move on from there. But let's look at what we did do. The important thing for me was that obviously we've got number 14 that we're chasing the title. Um, the main thing that at least excited me about the transfer window is that at least this time around, missing out on our number one targets, we still ensure that we still cover the areas that were short. So we didn't just accept the fact that, yeah, okay, we lost our Mudryk, we lost our Caicedo, or Brighton refused to sell him, but we didn't just stop there. We knew that we had gaps in the squad, and we still went out and ensured that we closed those gaps. So for me, that was important that we actually did that. I mean, the main gaps that we had was mainly, as we saw, we had gaps in left wing, left centre back, and defensive mid. So the way I'll look at it is like this: yeah, the gap at left wing, yeah, it's not so much of like when you think about left wing, we have Martinelli there, and I've said there's two things about that. Yeah, Martinelli for me at the moment has been playing really well, um, but I think even if you speak to other people online and on Twitter and stuff like that, you will see people still say, yeah, we could still try to improve in that area. At least get someone who's also young as well, who also has a higher ceiling as well, someone who can also compete with him, whereby we can see if he's actually good enough, he's actually gonna reach that level. Whatever the case may be, you still want to have competition. You see what I mean? So let's take for example, we went for Rafael Leao, or we actually got Mudryk. We got in someone who's close in age with him as well, and so on. And then they can compete for the position, and whoever the best player is there gets a position in the end. It doesn't. It's like it helps both of them develop because they have competition. So, but obviously we missed out on that. But the key thing for me that I see there in terms of who we actually ended up signing, which was Trossard, was that okay? That's fine. Trossard is not someone who we're gonna have who we want to be that in that position long term. But at the end of the day, in terms of this season, we've got Martinelli who's played well for half a season already. And for me, he's already done enough to prove that he's good enough that we can win the league title with him in the team based off 19 games already that we've seen with him and he's performed this season. So we know that he's got the qualities. What Trossard offers us at the moment is a player that can allow us to rotate Martinelli, give him some rest as well at the same time, or give us an alternative option there as well, and also just to ensure that Martinelli is on his feet. Like he understands that there's someone behind me, so I have to stay on my. I have to I have to be on my best. And you can see against Man City when he came off the bench, the little cameo. That cameo to me was it was like he was sending out a message that look like, yeah, we signed Trossard, but I'm still the guy for this position because his performance when he came off the bench was really good. It's probably one of his best performances that we've seen in the last few games because we have seen him dip a little bit, but that performance against Man City was really good. Like off the bench, you see him just taking on players, beating players, going past players, taking them all the way down the line, getting to the box and creating situations constantly. So, and also another thing that was interesting about that is as well is because he came off the bench, you see he's fresh as well. I think that's something that he's not been able to. Obviously, we've not been able to rotate him and stuff like that. So I think us being able to rotate him with Trossard will allow him to be fresh coming into these games as well. You know what I mean? So at least then he's not so much like just constantly like using, you know what I mean, he can get some rest, he can come in fresh, sometimes he can start off the bench, and you see what he's able to do when he's got fresh legs, you know what I mean? So I feel like obviously, as I've said, long term Trossard is obviously not going to be the main like guy that's going to be there in that position, but if Martinelli turns out to be an elite player or world class player, then that's what it is. But I still feel like when we go into the transfer market next summer, we still need to look for another player similar age group of Martinelli, just like how we looked for Mudryk, and try and get someone who can actually compete with him in that position. Then we can actually at least we can have that player and we can say these two are long term options because obviously Trossard is what 28 I think he is, or something like that. Yeah, anyways, but yeah, at least then we have someone who's more of like a long term option along with Martinelli in that position. So I'm still happy that we got Trossard. For me, that the Trossard signing was good. Again, as I said, it's a good thing that we didn't just obviously we missed out on our first target, or we missed out on our long term target. You know what I mean, like the long term option. But at least we got someone that we know can do a job for us, especially this season. Long term, we'll look for someone else. So next thing I'll also go over again is Jakub, the Polish centre back. Again, this one was interesting as well because that was another priority position as well. Um, like I said, the three main priority positions was defensive mid, left centre back, and left wing. The left centre back position was a priority mainly because Gabriel, if you notice, he also plays Europa League games as well. He also played in the cup games also, and that's because Arteta likes to use a left-footed player on that side just because of the angle in terms of like the build-up play. Because Arteta's obviously, he's big on the build-up play, the angles you can create, to build the ball out the back. And Gabriel, we don't have another left centre back there, so I'm happy that we got this signing here. Someone who obviously, for us to be after him, they would have scouted him, they would have trusted him. So you just gotta trust the club in terms of like they've done their research on the player and they believe in his potential and stuff like that. So that's good that at least we have another player who can play in the Europa League and we can rest Gabriel. You know what I mean? Because Gabriel doesn't need to play all this game. He plays so many games. He doesn't need to play all these other games that are not needed. And we have like a direct replacement, someone who's also left-footed as well, and someone who can also help in that build-up play, which we know is what Arteta wants in that situation. So again, that's a good signing for us, because at the end of the day, the most important thing this season of all things is number 14 is a title. And if we have someone who can come in for the Europa League games, which allows Gabriel to rest, that then means that Gabriel is fit for the Premier League, which is important. We've got 19 key games, and any signing that allows his players to be fresh for the Premier League is a good deal. So at least we've done that centre back there to ensure Gabriel is always fit. For left wing, we brought in Trossard to ensure that Martinelli remains fit for the rest of the season, so he can continue to perform, and we can continue to try and perform at this level, so we can win a title. So then the next one is obviously we looked at obviously our number one target for defensive mid was Caicedo. Obviously that didn't go to plan. Brighton kept on saying no and things like that, but we do look at defensive mid and centre mid as well. You look at what's it called, like the age of the players that's there. We've got Xhaka, we've got Partey, and obviously now we've got Jorginho. All of them above the age of 29, so they're aging. The defensive mid position and centre mid position are both aging positions. So ideally, we would have been looking at someone younger to be like the long-term replacement for both Xhaka and Partey. But obviously, we ended up with Jorginho because we couldn't get the young options. But again, as I said, in the summer, we can at least continue to look for someone that is the more age-appropriate player for that position. But let's talk about Jorginho, for example. And my first when I first thought about him, for me, defensively, let me just talk about his advantages and disadvantages. So, what does Jorginho actually bring to the team? So, when I look at it like this, Jorginho as a player, for me, he's a good player. I wouldn't call him a bad player. That's impossible. He's a good player. We've seen what he's done at Napoli. We've seen what he's done with Italy. We've seen what he's done at Chelsea as well. In the right system, he's a very good player. And you've seen that system under Sarri, and it's quite a similar system to what Arteta does as well. Where Jorginho is really good is that when he plays in a compact team, which we are, the compact team in terms of he doesn't have to make all these runs, all these transitional runs defensively, or he doesn't have to carry the ball, anything like that. He's playing with players who are really close to him, where he can just build up play and play passes between lines, play quick switches of play, find players who are free, find players who are in open space and stuff like that. And when you have a guy like that who's really good, who's really sharp, it reminds me of like Busquets, guys who can just quickly find players in between lines. They can quickly find players who are in advantageous positions, players who are free, and they can build up play from the back. These are all the qualities that Jorginho has. So he's not a bad player. He's a very good player. He's going to give us good qualities in the build-up play, which Partey offers. He's another player that's going to give us a lot of experience that he's got. He's another player who also understands. He understands the way Arteta wants to play. I know Arteta's gonna would rate his intelligence as well, because Arteta, he's a really smart player, and he understands this style of play. So for sure, I already know that that in terms of that build-up play and getting the ball out the back and understanding our system and the experience he's gonna give to the younger players, and also the experience of actually winning the Premier League and winning big titles and stuff like that, he's gonna bring all that experience to the team. So those are the advantages. Another advantage again is that he's with his age and with the contract they gave to him, which is just a year and a half. So meaning from next year, he's just a year left. It means that it doesn't prevent us from going after a more younger option. So for me, those are all the advantages that he brings. The disadvantage with Jorginho for me is simply the fact that, and this was my concerns with the sign, is simply the fact that we spent so much money in terms of ensuring that our build-up play is really good. We we spent over 200 million on getting the likes of Ben White, the likes of Partey, Tomiyasu, Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, Ramsdale, even Zinchenko and stuff like that. We spend so much on getting our build up play really good, and our build up play is sharp. There's no flaws in there. We're really good in our build up play. But the main concern when Partey gets injured, it's not really the build up play. That's not really the issue. When Partey gets injured, what we really miss is the defensive qualities, because even without Partey's ability to build up play, let's just take for example we had someone like Caicedo in there who maybe is not great in the build up play, or just pick anyone. We still have a lot of players like Zinchenko drifts into midfield to help with the build-up play. Gabriel the same thing. Saliba the same thing. Ben White drifts into it as well. So our build-up play we wouldn't lose so much in the build-up aspect. But what we do lose when we lose Partey is the defensive aspect, in which we saw against Man City. The moment he went off the pitch, look at the gap that we saw due to Lokonga and Granit Xhaka not being able to cover that space where Partey usually is. So that's the key thing, is that even you could like the likes of El Nini, the likes of Lokonga who are backup, they don't have the same defensive quality as what Partey gives us. None of Xhaka, El Nini, Lokonga has that kind of quality, but Partey has this. So when you think about what Partey offers to us defensively, you would expect for us to get like a signing who's gonna replicate that, because that's the biggest miss when he's not on the pitch. So the thing is, the disadvantage with Jorginho is that what we miss with Partey, he's not gonna offer that. He's not gonna offer us that defensive quality that's gone without Partey. He's not going to give us those kind of qualities because he's not a great defensive player. Yes, he's able to. The thing is, he can defend what's in front of him. He can defend duels in front of him and stuff like that. But the biggest thing is, when you ask him to defend in big space, in an isolated situation, he doesn't have the qualities to do that. Yes, I understand that our team is very compact and it prevents those kind of situations. But we're still seeing situations whereby Partey, Gabriel, Saliba, they've had to use their physical advantage simply because at times maybe we'll have to deal with a counter-attacking situation, a transitional situation. You can't avoid these things from happening. From time to time, yes, you can be very compact, but from time to time, you're going to be tested. You're going to end up having situations whereby you have to deal with these sort of transitional situations, which is where Partey comes in, which is where the physical advantage comes in. The physical advantage that he has comes in. So he's not just a technical player, but he also has physical qualities. These are where the physical advantages come in. But these are the qualities that Jorginho doesn't offer. So again, when everything is okay and when everything is calm, we're very compact, we're playing as a team, we're playing really well, you're going to see Jorginho perform really well, because that's what he does. He's a great player on the ball. The main issue is going to arrive when the system ends up breaking. You know what I mean? And the thing is, we're playing against a Man City team that they could go on a run. You know what I mean? They could go on a run. We have to be perfect for 19 more games. We have to be really perfect. We can't make too many mistakes. And the thing is, you could have situations whereby maybe the opposition ends up like we end up in this end-to-end game just randomly. We don't usually do that, but let's say we end up. You're going to need players who have the physical qualities to deal with this and defend these situations in isolation. And these are players like Partey, these are players like Gabriel, these are players like Saliba. This is what they offer. Jorginho's not going to be able to offer this. But again, as I mentioned, he's still a backup player, so that's fine. Because what I wanted in that position for Partey was just a backup player anyways. I wasn't looking for a first choice defensive mid. But as long as Partey can stay fit and Jorginho remains just a backup and he can cover and stuff like that, and it's not like he's in the team to play 10 games in a row and stuff like that, then we should be fine, because Jorginho is good enough to play a decent amount of games. I just don't feel like he's going to be the right player for us for consistent games, just due to the fact that, yes, we can be perfect all the time, but when these break in the system occurs, I don't think he has the defensive quality, the mobility to be able to deal with those isolated situations. You know what I mean? I think we even saw the situation whereby Partey made that long recovery run to get the ball of Anthony against United. You know what I mean? Jorginho can't deal with those kind of situations. And you can't say that we're going to be perfect, because look at that situation that occurred. These kind of things are going to happen. You can't just you're not going to be a perfect team. And these are where having players who have both physical and technical qualities, these kind of players are special, because yes, you want to play the technical game. You're going to play the technical game. You expect to be compact. You expect to be secure and everything. But these things happen. Once in a while, you're going to have to do with isolated situations. That's where these physical players who are also technical, this is where they become special, because then they can deal with those isolated situations. Jorginho can't. You know what I mean? So again, like I said, for me, as long as Partey remains fit, that should be all right. It wouldn't be too much of an issue. I think long term though, we do need to add some younger players in that defensive mid and centre mid area, because obviously Partey is what, 29, Xhaka 30, and I think Jorginho might be 31 or 32. So we do need to add some young players to that position. We can't, obviously we're going to end up having El Nino who's back again, who's also an older player as well. We need to start bringing in some young defensive mid and young centre mid. Obviously, we've been linked to Caicedo, we've been linked to Declan Rice and things like that. Which then leads to the point where I'm saying, like, in terms of like our future targets, like future number one targets, okay, this window, it's happened. There's nothing much you can say about that. But going forward, we need to like try to make sure that we're getting our number one targets. We can't, going into the next summer, let's say for example we win the league title this season. You go into the next season, you have to get your number one targets, because that will be the difference between like winning the title back to back. That will be the difference between winning the Champions League, because the likes of Trossard, Jorginho, these aren't the signings that's gonna get you to go back to back with the title, go on to go win the Champions League and things like this. These are like backup players that we're having. There's a reason why we're giving Jorginho a 1-year contract. There's a reason why Trossard is coming in at the moment after we tried to get Mudryk. So going forward, like in the summer, for example, the main positions for me that I feel like we need to target is left wing and centre mid. I think we need to get a left winger, someone that we know can compete and push Martinelli completely, who's good enough to take his spot. But if Martinelli is good enough to keep him out of the team, then Martinelli is good enough to keep him out of the team. But I feel like we should still get someone who can compete properly with Martinelli in that position. And then we need to get a centre mid, someone who can compete with Xhaka long term in that position. And ideally, you can get someone who can, if you get a more advanced player or someone who can play both positions, like Rice, for example, who can cover both Xhaka and Partey's position, that helps us. If you want to get two players, someone who can play the centre mid role and then get another defensive mid who's going to offer those defensive qualities when we miss Partey, then that's great. But for me, I feel like I wouldn't be so concerned about who Partey's backup is if it wasn't for like historic reasons, in terms of the fact that the last 2 seasons before, he played 24 games and got injured. But as someone mentioned to me on Twitter, he played 16 games this season already. So it's possible that maybe he's not going to get injured this season, or maybe he's starting to adjust to the Premier League, like the pace and stuff like that, and he might not pick up another injury again. If Partey plays over 30 games, or like close to 30 games, and Jorginho just plays maybe 5-6 games and stuff like that, then that's perfect. Then it doesn't really matter who the backup is. You know what I mean? But it's just the backup is just a concern, because the last 9 games of the season are very difficult. We're playing Newcastle, we're playing City, we're playing Chelsea, we're playing Liverpool. You know what I mean? And you don't want a situation whereby we're playing these teams and we have a guy in defensive mid who can't deal with isolated situations. You know what I mean? And everything just completely fails. So yeah, but even with Jorginho, I feel like he's gonna offer a lot. I think in games, because there are certain games that we end up going end to end and stuff like that. We end up going end to end, or like we're in the lead but we're not controlling the games. You bring on someone like Jorginho, he's going to settle those games. Like I've said it before, like we need to start monopolizing possession in order to dominate teams. Monopolize the possession, just keep the ball just for the sake of it. Jorginho's really good at doing stuff like that, and I feel like he's the kind of player that we bring into those games, and he help us to completely control the game, settle the game. And that's another way to give Partey rest. You can give Partey rest by, in those kind of games, simply by bringing on Jorginho just to calm the game down, prevent any end-to-end situation. He circles the ball around, and at the same time we're resting Partey as well, and ensuring that he's fit for the whole season. I think that's key. Make sure that Partey is fit for the whole season. So yeah, I'm glad with the signings that we've made. But going into the summer, again, we need to make sure we get our number one targets, especially in the left wing position and the centre mid positions. I think those two positions, once we if we get top players in those two positions, we can actually go, if we win the league this season, we can do it back to back, and that could be the difference between us also competing for the Champions League as well. Because I feel like in every other position we've got top class players, but I feel like those two left wing and centre mid positions are the main positions that we can still improve on or add more competition in those positions. But anyways, that's me, man. See you guys next video.